Good morning, my pumpkins. I hope that you guys are well and your families, and that you guys are keeping safe and staying at home. Today, we are going to go over the extra practice page 130. So, to do this, you need to have either a red, blue, or any other color except for black pen, as we would do in class. And you need to have either your notebook or the loosely paper where you did the homework, okay? Once you do that, you can pause the presentation, and once you get all your materials, then you can go ahead and hit play again. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so before we begin discussing the extra practice, let's hit the refresh button as I would usually tell you in class, and let's review the rules for spelling the past tense. Okay, I just want to make sure that you guys are getting this. I did not correct the extra practice. If you noticed, I really didn't make any comments. I just said assignment was received or assignment was done because I wanted to go over the page with you as we were doing class. Okay, so now that you're ready, now that you have your pen, I need you to just be focused on what we're doing now. I need you to turn off the TV. I need you to go into a spot where you can just focus on the work that we are going to do now. I need you guys to promise me that, okay? Okay, I'm trusting you. All right, so when we're talking about spelling the past tense, we definitely know, because we're working with grammar, that there are rules to follow, okay? And for forming or spelling the past tense, there are 4 rules that you guys need to know. You can, how do I say this? The more you practice, the better you'll become. So it's always good for you to have the rules written somewhere close to you when we're working with this. It could be on sticky notes, or maybe you wrote them on the notebook, or maybe you wrote them on a loose leaf paper so that you have easy access to it. So it's easy for you to find it, okay? So let's begin. Let's start with rule number 1. And rule number 1, this one right here, I'm going to highlight the number 1. That's where we are at this very moment. States that to most verbs we are going to add ed. Now, don't forget that we've covered and we've talked about this while we were still in school. Oh, I miss you guys. Okay. Um, so when we were back in school, we did get to talk about that there are 2 different types of forms when we're talking about verbs in the past tense. We have the regular ones, and then we have the irregular ones. And because you saw that video that I told you to watch, you reviewed a little bit when you saw it, because they did name it, they mentioned it. Okay. So we have regulars, and then we have irregulars. And for those of you that have forgotten what that is, don't forget that the regular verbs in the past tense are those that end with ed. Those are the verbs that are going to end. Although we're going to follow some rules, the ending of that verb is going to have ed at the end of it, okay? And then we have the irregular ones, and those are the ones that have a different spelling, such as eat, ate, write, wrote. We have, there's so many, let's see. We have think, thought. Yes, if you thought of that one, that's a good one. And I'm sure that as I'm saying them, you guys are coming up with a few of your own, because we did discuss this in class, okay? But we didn't really get to discuss each rule, and this is why I'm doing this now, okay? So we are going to focus specifically on regular verbs, which means that these will be verbs that, although we are going to follow some rules, all of them, if you notice, all of them end with ed. You see that? Ed, ed. They follow different rules, but they all end with ed. Look at this one. Ooh, and that's a terrible circle, but I like my favorite color. See, different rule, but yet it ends with ed. different color. I mean, yeah, it is a different color. It's a purple color. But they all end with ed, although they're following a different rule. Are you guys following? So, same thing here. It's following a different rule because this one is following rule number 4, but yet when you look at it, it's still ending with ed because all of these are regular verbs, okay? Now, let's go over each one. Number 1 again, to most verbs, we are going to add ed. We have play, played, call, call. Now, don't forget that when we're talking about tens, that word tens has to do with time, okay? So it doesn't necessarily have to be something, it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you did 10 years ago. We think of the past and we think maybe a year ago or 2 years ago. No, it could be as maybe you did something, you're talking to someone at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you want to tell them about what you did in the morning. It's something that had already happened, okay? So I always want you to keep that in mind. So let's go to rule number 2. Verbs ending with E, and this is a silly one because it says that you're going to drop the E and add ed. And some of you, right now, some of you are going to be asking, teacher, but that's kind of silly. Why not just add the D? There is an important reason why it's you need to know the rule this way, where you drop the E, because when you're learning other forms of verbs, you are going to also use the drop the E, and we won't necessarily be working on the past tense, so you may need to add other endings. So it's important that you memorize, although it sounds silly right now, it's important for you to remember that verbs ending with E, you're going to drop the E and add ed. Okay, and then we have the example grace, grazed, rope, robed, and so forth, okay? Rule number 3, verbs ending with a single vowel and a consonant, you're going to double the consonants and add ed. And I know that this one is sort of, I don't want to say hard, but this one you really got to pay attention to what you're doing. This is not the time when you want to watch TV and do your homework, or play with your friends and be distracted and do the homework. No, this is a time when you really have to think about what you're doing, because there are certain things that you have to look for before you decide to double the consonant, okay? And to help you out, I want you to sort of uh, make like a check mark list, okay? So you know exactly what are the things that you're going to look for. Okay, so when we're working with verbs ending with a single vowel and a consonant, there are 3 things that I want you to look for, okay? One, that it's a one word syllable. It's a one syllable word, excuse me. It's a one syllable word. That means, and I hope that you remember how to know or how to figure out how many syllables are in a word, right? We did the clapping, or we did the sort of the, I don't know, when you put your fingers together and you're making this clicking sound. So I'm sure that there is a word for it. I'm sure Elianis is saying it at this moment when I'm doing this. She's like, teacher, I can't think of the word right now. Elianis, you're going to have to help me out later on. Okay, so when you are working with verbs ending in a single vowel and a consonant, first thing that I want you to do is I want you to find out if it's one syllable word. That means that you're going to say the word and you're going to clap as you're saying it to see how many times do you clap. If you only clap 1 time, it's a 1 syllable word. If you clap 2 times, that's two syllables in the word. And I know that you've done this with Senora Nieves also in Spanish class, and we did get to practice dividing syllables in class, so I hope that you guys remembered. But let's try it out. I can't clap because it's gonna upset your ear because I'm so close to the microphone. So but let's try to, oh my gosh, the word, Elianis, I need you to tell me what the word is. But just click your fingers, put your fingers together and make a sound every time you say the word. Also, we tried it closing our fist, remember? And we were making movements like every time we said it. So let's practice. Okay. Stop. Stop. See? One syllable word. Perfect. Are you guys with me? Because I need you to uh, stay with me. Now, if it's a one syllable word, that's a check mark. But that's not the only thing that we need. Okay? That's not the only thing that we are going to look for. So there's something else that it says. Single vowel. So now we have a list. And on that list, I told you that you need to make a list. You could pause it so that you can write it, and then you can hit play so that you can continue with the presentation. Number one, one syllable word. And then you put like a little square so you could do a check mark. Pretend we're in class. You guys know how I do it. I put the square and then I do a check mark so that we know, okay, we got it, check mark. Okay, and then number two, single vowel. You need to look at the word. Okay, you already put a check mark next to one syllable word. So we know that, okay, we're good. We're heading in the right direction. It's a one syllable word. Number two, single vowel. And single vowel, it means single. A person who's single is alone, right? It's just one. Okay. So single vowel is that there's only one vowel in that word. So the second thing that you're writing on that list is one vowel. Instead of writing the word single, let's just do one because we know that single means one. So one vowel. And then you're going to draw a little box next to it. I hope that you guys are doing this, okay? Again, I know that I may be speaking a bit fast, but you guys can pause it, and then you write it, and then you hit play. So one vowel, and then you draw a little square, a little box next to it, and then we're going to look at the word stop. The word stop, is there only one vowel in the word stop? Yes, there is. So you go to the box, and then you do a little check mark, okay? The third thing that we have to look for when we are working with verbs ending with a single vowel and a consonant. And the third thing that we have to look we have to look at the word and we have to check if it ends with vowel and a consonant. And for those of you that are still having some problems with this, you are going to say your ABCs, your alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. Okay, and I don't want you singing the song. We're fourth graders. We're not doing the kinder thing. No, we're doing the fourth grade thing. We're going to say A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, so once you do that, and you can even write it on that same piece of paper that you're writing, the three things that we're going to look for. Don't forget that we sometimes have to be detectives. So in that same paper, you could do A, B, C, you could write it. And then once you write the alphabet, I want you to circle the A, the E, the I, the O, and the U. Okay? And those letters that you just circled, those are your vowels. So all of the other letters that you have in the alphabet, those are consonants. So if you have a highlighter or if you just want to underline it, go ahead and underline all those letters so that you know, okay, the ones that are underlined, these are my consonants. So you can do that so that you have your paper with you and you can just have that paper with you. So every time you're working with this, you can use that. You can use that as help. That's fine. So now the third thing that we're looking for is at the ending. So you would write for number 3, ends with a vowel and a consonant. That's the third thing that we're looking for, okay? So now that you have written that, you draw a little box or a square at the end of that, and we're going to look carefully at the word that you are working with, the verb in this case that you're working with. So you look at it and you say, okay, there is an O. Oh, wait, let me see. O is circled, and Mrs. Villamosa said that the letters that we circle, those are our vowels. So O is a vowel. So okay, we're heading in the right direction because it says here in number 3 that ends in vowel and consonant. So right now it's ending with a vowel. Now let's look at this letter here, the last one, P. P, let's see, P, is it circle or underlined in my paper? Oh, it's underlined because P is a consonant. So stop is a verb that ends in vowel consonant. Very good. So then because it's a one-syllable word, check mark, it has one vowel, check mark, and it ends in vowel consonant, check mark, then yes, we do have to double the consonant here, and then we would add ed. Okay, and you're going to follow the same procedure for all of these verbs. Okay, what you can do is if you see a verb, they tend to be really short because these are one-syllable words. Okay, these are so when you look at it, you're like, oh, it's so short. Let me double check if this is going to use rule number 3. And then you look and find out, go over the 3 things. You're going to turn into detectives. You're going to put on your detective hat and you are going to check to see if you have to double the consonant or not. Okay? So I hope this helps. Okay, so let me erase some of this because it's starting to look a bit messy, and you know I do not like to work with messy stuff. Okay, so I hope that you guys are understanding that. Okay, so let's go to rule number 4. And we're here. I'm highlighting the number. Rule number 4. Now let's read the rule carefully. Verbs ending with a consonant in Y, we're going to change the Y to I and add ED. And I know that some of you are saying we're going to change the change the Y to I and add ED. We change the Y to I and add ED because we did learn that song because we've used this before, only ending with ES. But we're working in the past now, so we know that it has to end with ED. Okay. So let's talk about this one. Verbs ending with a consonant in Y. Change the Y to I and add ED. And I'm noticing that some of you are changing the Y to I, although it's not ending with a consonant. You're using the same rule for verbs that are ending with vowel in Y. And we cannot do that, okay? Verbs ending with a vowel, A, E, I, O, U, and Y, they follow rule number 1, okay? But for verbs ending with a consonant, and again, you're going to look at your paper and you're going to see all the letters that you underlined or highlighted, those are your consonants. The ones that you circled, those are your vowels. So this is another rule that you cannot work with if you're distracted. If you're watching TV and listening to music, and I know that you're at home and you may think that this is something that you can do, but I'm telling you right now that no. When you're working with English, I want you to pretend that we're in the class. I need you to find a quiet spot. I need you to have your materials, and I need you to be ready to learn because this is what I want. I want for you to learn, okay? That's what I'm here for. So when you're working with English, as you would do with any other class, I want you to, not just English, but I have to speak for mine. But when you guys are working on school stuff, you need to not be distracted. Turn the TV off again. Tell mommy, daddy, your sisters, I need some quiet time because I really have to focus on what I'm doing. And when you're working with this is another rule that you really have to be careful because there's certain things that you have to look for, okay? And again, what things are we looking for here? Well, it tells you verbs ending with a consonant in Y. So I think the first thing wait a minute, I forgot to do this. So the first thing that you're going to look for, and I think it's the one that's going to really catch your eye, is the ending, right? If you see the ending here, it's going to, you're going to notice that it ends in Y. I think that's, when you look at a verb that ends with Y, that's the first thing that's going to catch your eye, the ending, Y. Okay, so after you identify that this verb ends with a Y, now you have to look at, what do you have to look at? Who can tell me? No one? I know that there are a few of you actually raising your hands, right? It's such a shame that this is happening, because I really do miss you guys and seeing your pretty faces. So I know that we may have some people, right, raising their hand that actually want to participate. But even though I can't hear you, if you're saying it, that's perfect. You're going to look at the letter before the Y. So this is a Y. We identified it. Now we're going to look at the letter that is before it. Okay? And then you're going to look at that piece of paper where you wrote the alphabet. And you are going to decide whether that is a vowel or a consonant. And you see that R, it's one of those letters that you underlined, which means that it is a consonant. Okay, and I know that some of you are like, I teacher, why are you repeating yourself? We know the alphabet, we know consonants, and we know the vowels. Okay, well, if you do, that's fine, but I am just repeating this for the people that are still struggling a little bit with this. Okay, and as I tell you in class, it's okay. No one's perfect. So if you are still having a little bit of a hard time with this, that's fine, right? Okay. So then we identified the verb. Immediately we see that it ends with Y. Okay, now we're going to look at the letter before it. And in the example carry, the letter before the Y is, we have R, right? And R, it is a consonant. And the rule says verbs ending with consonant in Y. It doesn't say vowels in Y, because for vowels in Y, we're going to do this. Okay, there are some exceptions, but for the majority of them, we are going to just add ed. Don't forget that we have irregular verbs. So we may have an example such as say. Okay, say, it's a verb that ends in vowel Y, but when we form the past, it's an irregular one because it changes to id. The spelling changes. But we're not focusing on that. We're focusing on regular verbs that when you spell the past tense, you add ed. Okay, I just wanted to clear that out. So carry, it's a verb that ends in Y, and there is a consonant before the Y. So then what do we do when that happens? When we have verbs ending with a consonant in Y, let's see, look. The Y changes to I. Oh, there it is. And then we add ed. Okay, that makes sense, right? And that's the same step and the same process that you're going to do with every single one of the verbs that are ending with a consonant in Y. But as I said, and I'm going to continue to repeat it because you know that I'm very repetitive so that you guys get it. You need to not be distracted. Do not be distracted when you're doing this, okay? Especially for the workbook pages that you guys are going to work after this, because those are going to be worth points. So I want everyone to get 100, okay? Because you're going to follow this and you're going to do exactly what I'm telling you so that you do an excellent job on those workbook pages. Okay, so we're done with the review, and I hope that this helps. Guys, if you have any questions, please email me, okay? Please email me. Do not hesitate. Don't ever feel that I'm going to be upset, that you guys are bothering me. No, email me, okay? All right, so let's continue. So here is the answer key for the extra practice, and although we are going to go over it, I wrote it here so that you can not only double check the rules that you're using, but also the spelling that's important. So for the circle part, you had to write, in this case, the verb in each pair that it is in the past tense. So they gave you a pair of verbs, and then out of those two, don't forget that the word paired means two, you had to choose the one that was actually showing the verb in the past tense. Okay, so we look at number one, and this should be your answer. Gulp, gulped, and we followed rule number one. But number two, hemmed, hem. So the one ending with ed is your correct answer. And not only that, but I want you to make sure that you doubled those consonants, okay? That you double that consonant. So if you look at the verb in its base form, hem, let's see. Remember the list that I told you for rule number three? There are three things that you have. And then when you're working with that, you put your detective hat on, and we're going to do an investigation of this verb. So hem, let's see if it's a single, one syllable word. Let's see. Hem. Hem. Yes, hem, it's a one syllable word, so we do a check mark. Yes, it has that. We're not done yet. There are two other things that we have to look for, but we're heading in the right direction. Okay, so now we look at the word him, and we have to look. In number two in your paper, it should say one vowel. Does it have just one vowel? I am still having some issues with the vowels. Let me go to the paper. Let's see, vowels. Necesitamos hacer to circle the vowels in my alphabet. Huh. E is actually circled, so yes. And there's only one vowel, so I put a little check mark next to it as well. Yep, 2 out of 3. We're heading in the right direction. Now, the third thing that we're going to look for is to check if it ends with a vowel consonant. So let's see. Hem. Okay, so vowel. E is a vowel. So this is a vowel. You can even write under it, right? And then M, let me look at my list. M is underlined, so M is a consonant. And I know that's terrible handwriting, but you have no idea how I'm doing this, guys. It's not easy. So please don't make fun of your teacher. Okay, so hem does end with vowel consonant. So check mark. So what does it say when that happens? When I have a one syllable word that has one vowel and it ends with vowel consonant? Let me hear you. What did you say? Yes, that's it. You double the consonant. In this case, the M. So we double the M and then we add ed. Okay? Are you guys with me? Yes? Okay. I hope so. Okay. So let me delete this so that it doesn't look messy. Okay, and I'm going to leave that underlined so that you notice that we double the consonant. Okay? So let's go to number 3. We have try and then we have tried. And when we look at the verb try, which is in its base form, let's see, what rule can we use there? We immediately notice that is a verb that ends in Y, but we know that we have to look at the letter before it because that's what rule number 4 states. So we have, yes, we have a verb that ends in consonant Y, right? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Will you give me a thumbs up? If you did a thumbs up, you are correct. So in exercise number 3, tried is the correct answer, and we followed rule number 4 as it shows here on your screen. For number 4, we have trip and tripped. Again, we identify the past tense because it ends with ed, and we followed rule number 3 here, and I hope that you can understand by now the process that you have to do to know when you have to double the consonant in a verb to spell or to form the past tense. Then we go to number 5, and then we have owed, and then o. And here, the verb in its base form o, we know that it ends with e, and we follow rule number 2, and this is the silly one because it says that we're going to drop the e and then add ed. So this is the correct answer, and we followed rule number 2. If you made any mistakes, again, guys, you can pause this. You pause it, you make any you fix anything, you correct anything, and then you hit play and you continue listen to the discussion of extra practice, page 130, okay? And then number 6, we do the same. We follow the steps for rule number 4, and this is the correct uh, verb in that pair. Okay, let's go to the triangle section. And the triangle section says, use the past tense of the verb to complete each sentence. Write the sentence. So for this section, for those of you, I really don't, I have to be honest, I really don't recall if I said answers only or not. So it really doesn't matter at this point. What I want you to do is I want you to focus. If you did copy the sentences, good job. If you didn't, because I don't recall, uh, and I apologize for that. I don't recall the exact directions that I gave you when I sent the paper. It's okay. It doesn't make a difference at this point because I can't remember whether or not. So I don't want you to worry about it. Okay, so number 7, we're just going to briefly go over this because we've already discussed the rules and we've worked on some of examples. So I hope that you're getting it by now. This should be the correct form for writing the past tense of rap, and you followed rule number 3. For number 8, this is the correct form for zipped. For zip, the past tense of zip is zipped, and we also followed rule number 3. For number 9, the verb in its base form is carry, and we form carried by using rule number 4. So carried, change the Y to I and add ed would be the correct form to do this. Number 10, check. How do we form check? This follows rule number 1. We just add ed. Okay. Another clue, or another way to make it easy for you guys. If you, like for example, if you saw check and you had a difficult time, you didn't know which rule to follow, you can do the process of elimination. Okay, what does that mean? You can just look in, for example, check is check. You go back to your rules. You look at the rules and you're going to go over check. I don't know which one. I don't know, Mrs. Villamosa, if I'm supposed to follow rule number 1. Okay, let's go over rule number 2 for a minute. Rule number 2, what does it say? Okay, so does check, can you use rule number 2 for check? No, right? No, because check does not end with an E. And rule number 2 talks about verbs ending with E. So we know that we cannot use rule number 2 for check. Okay, so let's go over rule number 3. And rule number 3, what does it talk about? Oh, wait a minute. Rule number 3 talks about verbs ending with a vowel and consonant. And check doesn't end with a vowel and consonant. Check ends with a consonant because C is a consonant and check is a consonant. So no, we cannot use rule number 3. Okay, so maybe I can use rule number 4. Let's see. Okay, check. Let's see. Rule number 4 says verbs ending with a consonant and Y, change the Y to I and add ed. Oh, wait a minute. Check does not end with Y. Oh my goodness, Miss Villamosa, I cannot use rule number 4. Well, then you think and you're like, okay, I can't use rule number 2. I can't use rule number 3. I can't use rule number 4, so then it has to be rule number 1. And if you came up with that conclusion, then yes, this is why I always tell you that you guys are so smart. Yes, then we would do just add ed and then use rule number 1. And anytime you get to a point where you have issues with a verb, you can just do this, what it's called process of elimination. You eliminate the incorrect answers, the answers that you know for a fact that you cannot use, okay? So for number 11, we have the verb hop in its base form, and we follow rule number 3, and this is how you were supposed to have written it on your paper. The word hop, we double the consonant and then we add ed, okay, because we're following rule number 3, and we follow the 3 steps that I told you to write on a loosely paper, on your notebook, on a sticky note, anywhere close to where you can have it close to you or easy to access, easy for you to just look at it. Okay, and then we have number 12. We have the base form fasten, excuse me, and we follow rule number 1 and we just add ed to it. Okay, no double the consonant, not anything, because fasten, it's not a one syllable word. Let's try it. Fasten. How many syllables? Fasten. How many? 2. If you said 2, you got this. Okay, so we followed rule number 1 here. Okay, I hope that you guys are with me. Let's continue. Let's go to the next. And now we have the square part, and in this part, you pretty much had to do the same thing. You had to change each present tense verb to past tense, and then you had to write the sentences. So for number 13, we are based, it said, a guide shows them around the outdoor museum. And the verb that you had was shows. Here, not only did you have to identify the verb, but then you have to change it and then rewrite the sentence. Okay, again, if you only did answers only, that's fine. I want to focus on forming or spelling the past tense. That's the focus of this lesson. Okay, so showed, a guide showed. So if you wrote it like this, you did it correctly and you followed rule number 1. Number 14, the base, the verb in the sentence was shade, and we do shaded. And in this case, let's see, Ramosa here made a boo-boo because it's not rule number 1 here. We followed rule number 2. Okay, and if you notice that, good catch. Okay, and number 15, it says bobcats and beavers live in the area, and we identify the verb live as the verb of the sentence, and we notice that live ends with an E, so we drop the E and then we add ed, so we follow rule number 2. Perfect. Then we go to sentence number 16. The new dam stops the river, and we identify the verb stops. So we know that the base form of stops is stop. So we try to see which rule are we going to use for this one. And we use rule number 3. We double the consonants and then we add a D. Okay, because stop in its base form, stop, S-T-O-P, is a one syllable word. Stop, that has one vowel in it. It has O, and it does end with vowel consonant. It ends with O-P, vowel consonant. So when that happens, we double the consonant, as we did here, and then we add ed. Okay? Then number 17, the streams dry up. We identify the word dry, and we immediately notice that it's a verb that ends in Y. So we know that there's a rule that's talked about verbs with a Y, right? So we go look for it, verbs ending with Y. We know that we have to look because it says verbs ending with a consonant in Y. So we have to look at the letter before the Y of dry. So we know that we have to change the Y to I, as we did here, as I did here, and then end it with ed. And we followed rule number 4. Okay? Number 18, the animals move to other places. We identify the verb. Don't forget that the verb is the word that tells what the subject does, did, has, have, okay? So the animals move to other places. What do the animals do? They move to other places. What do? They move. Okay, so move is a verb that ends with E, and we know, we look at our rules, and we know, oh, there it is. A rule talks about verbs ending with E. So it says that we drop the E, and we add ed to form the past tense. And we followed rule number 2. Okay? Guys, so I hope this helps. I hope that you were able to understand everything that I just covered. Now what I want you to do is I want you to work on the workbook pages. Please don't forget to write CAH. And you're like, what? What is that? Okay, CAH means corrected at home. Normally we would do CIC, corrected in class, and then copy today's date or the date when we corrected it. So we are going to continue to do that, okay? We, every Tuesday, Wednesday and Friday, you guys are going to hear from me because those are the specific dates that I have assigned with you. So we're going to do either a Zoom live uh, chat, or I am going to pre-record the class, which I prefer to do in a sense so that you can pause it, go back, try to make sense of what I'm saying, and then continue. And I think it's easier that way for you guys, but because I miss you some guys, there will be times where I am going to request that we meet, okay? Now, when we do that, there are specific rules that we have to follow. And you know me, we have to follow the rules because that's important. So when we do that, I'll give you directions when that happens, okay? So just know that English we will have on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Fridays, okay? And according to the schedule, I have you guys at 9 o'clock. So if we were to meet, or when we meet, it will be at that time at 9 o'clock in the morning, okay? So you are going to CAH your paper, whether it's your notebook or the loose leaf paper that you worked on. You're going to copy today's date. Today is April 17th, 2020. And now you guys are going to work on the assignment, excuse me, workbook pages 1, 2, and 3. I uploaded it under the material, no, under the assignment section. And I want you to read the directions and follow what it says, okay? Follow the directions that it says. Read directions carefully. All right, guys, this is all for today. Please keep safe. I send a big hug to every single one of you, okay? I miss you. I'll see you guys later.